You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This is Andy.
And this is Matt.
And you're listening to
The Hot Podcast with no name.
What a dumb name.
It's so stupid. Episode 55. I almost had to cough right when I hit record, but I've stuffed it deep down inside. And it will never come up again, but hopefully in the next 20 or so minutes. But we have this is your brainchild, so I'll let you talk about what it is, because you were so excited. You kicked open the door. You're like, I have the episode.
I have an idea. Well, we were going to talk about something else, but it felt important to try to answer a question that I remembered I had when I was first trying out these concepts. And
that could have went anywhere. A question that I remembered I had when I first, and then you stopped, and I was like,
I don't know
anywhere.
where she's gonna go.
Anywhere.
I guess the fascinating part is that I'm not sure I have the answer yet to this question that I had, but I'm closer. And so I guess the episode is me sharing the question and the almost answer.
Oh. I don't know much about making a podcast. I don't know that that's the script they give you for a good episode. But if anything, it's going to be helpful because I think I know where this is going. The problem is there is no way to have a defined answer to the question.
Correct.
So it's sort of got, it has to
by
be
by definition,
somewhat,
I'm pretty sure there is no correct answer.
Okay.
But
I'll allow it.
Okay.
I'm just going to gatekeep this episode.
So if I think back to learning about the concepts and then trying to go about my everyday work existence using the concepts, the question that came up over and over again was, what does good look like a long time from now? So if I
Can you, as someone who recently watched a Star Wars movie and it started with a long time ago, can you give us a sense of scale?
5-10 years from when I started.
Okay.
What would good look like in terms of if I could like snap my fingers, or I could look into the future and all of the people that I worked with understood the concepts in a similar fashion to how I understood them, what would we be doing differently? Because at the time, I guess it felt like it was just myself and maybe a few other people doing anything differently. And so it felt exhausting. And so I would often daydream about, well, if everyone was doing something differently, what would that look like for an organization? And I couldn't answer the question. And I can answer more of it now. And the only reason I thought it would be helpful to share is because, no matter how we talk about creating a plan, or, we've talked about this from a couple different levels of if you're someone in the organization that has direct authority, where you might start. If you're somebody who's just trying to influence, where might you start? If you're someone who's, just hanging out, doing your day-to-day work, where might you start? And I think for everyone, having at least a direction of what you're trying to get to might be helpful. And I don't know if that vision is obvious or not.
So what I'm hearing.
Oh, do tell me. Do tell.
I'm hearing is it's less of a light at the end of the tunnel and more of a here's what evolution could look like.
Yes.
Because there's no
definitive answer, and there's no end, meaning, there is no finish line of we are now executing. We've now done all of it, right? There's no, we've now done everything and we're done.
I've always found the clash between the idea that if we live in a complex adaptive system, which we do, or it's a simulation, that anytime you make a change to something else changes.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep learning with this idea of continuous improvement.
Correct.
Right? Because you're still trying to make these improved steps over time that you grow. And those sometimes feel at odds. And so what you're saying is we're going to do both.
We are going to do both. And I think that I've reconciled that they're not at odds in my mind, but I can picture that it could feel like it is at odds in some people's thought process. Okay. So let's just try to paint a picture, and feel free to jump in, Matthew, based on what you have seen.
Okay.
Orion's jumping in. Can you hear him in the podcast?
Barely. Okay, hold on. If this is coming through, because I have my headphones on, so I'm listening to what you're listening to. I can kind of hear it, but it also could just be going around the headphones. All that to say, Orion is Andrea's dog, who is gently reminding us that he's here in the background. So if no one hears anything, they're like, these people are crazy. Just making up names and saying, do you hear him? Yes. Okay. Continue.
Okay. So the ultimate vision would be, those are big words.
Wow. We're just making small declarations in this podcast.
Is that we have really mastered two different things. The first is the speed with which we can learn and improve, which means that there's a lot of information coming from a lot of different avenues to individuals that are able to make decisions. So they have decision rights and they have resourcing to make changes. And what I mean by increasing the speed with which we learn and improve, it goes back to what you were saying about complexity. So as life continues, as we march on, as we do any sort of work or activity in our daily life, we are continuously putting in energy in order to make things work. And things are constantly changing. And even in very well-defined, repetitive work, there are still changes that happen, whether that just be interpersonal changes, whether that be a new employee coming in, whether that be we change a supplier. There's constantly things that are changing that we're adapting to.
A machine breaks. It's replaced. It's not replaced. It's
absolutely
barely fixed. It's totally fixed.
Yes, a cutting tool gets a little bit duller than it normally is. There's so many tiny bits and pieces of things that are constantly changing. And in any organization, there are folks that can see the things that are changing because they're interacting with it closely, but they usually tend not to be the same people that have the decision rights to address all of the elements of the things that are changing, which means that our communication flow has to be wide. And we have to be able to get information from people that see things to people that can execute it, and then also make sure the folks that are executing the work are involved in the decisions of what to do about what they're seeing, right? That their voice is louder than it is today. So if we're picturing the speed with which we can learn and improve, that means that our management systems would be really well aligned to learning messy information, not necessarily targeted specific defined information, because that doesn't allow us to capture all the messiness of complexity, but that the feedback loops that we have are broad enough and wide enough that we hear the stories of the things that are working well and the stories of the things that are not working well, and that are, whether it be incident investigations or audits or Gemba walks or community forum conversations within a workplace, that all of those forums themselves are designed to allow for the sharing of that type of information.
So context-rich information makes its way from the point of work to those who have decision rights quickly.
Quickly, yes.
And not just, well, you mentioned a bunch of options, but like with audits, not just, hey, people aren't stopping at these stop signs, but context-rich information about the tasks being done and why those stop signs don't seem like they have the most operational fidelity.
Correct. And then the things that are within the control of a team, you would see people being able to address those quite quickly within the team, right? So we do have some examples of organizations that are pretty far down this path. And if a local team is seeing some change happening, they literally have a whiteboard in their area. They assemble a group. They talk about what they're seeing. They write it down. They pick out some things that feel like problem statements, and they start to brainstorm solutions of what they could do to change things to get everything sort of back in the direction they want it to go. And then they try storm that. And those elements are done at a local level. And then the things that are really difficult for a local team to address because they just don't have the resourcing, that information is passed to a different level in the organization. In the same concept, if anyone is familiar with tiered meeting structures within Lean, in the same concept of this information needs to be passed to a different group that has a different level of decision rights and a different level of resourcing to address things from a much wider, larger perspective.
And so in passing the information up, I have a question.
Yes.
And a thought. Are you thinking that they're passing up well-defined problem statements? Or are they passing up context? What are they passing up? Because that seems important.
It does seem very important. And I think if we're talking 10 years down the line, it would be a well-defined problem statement because it's far more efficient. If we're talking 5 years down the line, I think probably having more contextual information that goes with that problem statement would be required just to get everyone on the same page that this is indeed the problem that we're trying to address. When we have some faith in each other about how we're defining problems, we probably don't need a ton of contextual information to go with it. That said, oftentimes some of the context is necessary for other people that weren't in the original conversation. So anytime, let's even say 10 years in the future, we've got a really well-defined problem. That problem statement came from a bunch of context, and we would have to have availability to that information to make sure that, perhaps a senior engineer that wasn't part of the discussion who knows a critical component or aspect of the piece that we're trying to make a change to has that background information so that when they hear the problem statement, they can add their own piece of the puzzle to it. Yeah.
And if you're in that tiered meeting tomorrow and you're on the tier that's not actually doing the work, what you can listen for is a lot of assumptions being made. You could do that tomorrow. You're welcome. If you're not 10 years down the road tomorrow, just listen for when we're getting information, how much of it sounds like assumptions.
Yeah. Because ultimately in this desire to learn and improve quickly, what we're pointing at is we're learning and improving around how strong or weak our system is, right? And so today, most of the time in those tiered meetings, to your point, we're not hearing about a strength or weakness of a process or a system. We're hearing about strength or weaknesses of a process, of a person most of the time, where they'll be like, these folks aren't doing what they're supposed to, or they're not double checking when they're supposed to. And so those conversations in 10 years would be quite different because the problem statements themselves would change, which I think is what we're going to be talking about next episode. But
maybe. No promises. We refuse to commit, but it is likely that is it.
yeah. All right. So that's thing number one that we would see dramatically shift is the amount of information and the type of information that our processes are designed to grab, to listen to, and our management systems themselves would be aligned to encourage, require that type of information to be gathered.
Do either of my nieces read or listen to Dr. Seuss?
Yes.
Okay, because you're doing a lot of thing one, thing two. I'm just trying to see if we're going on a trend. That's all.
So thing two. Thing two would be specifically around the types of controls that are put in place. And whether we're talking about in the safety realm or the quality realm, anything that could have catastrophic failure, we would be looking for in the quality realm things like really early detection of a quality defect, assuming a defect will happen. So super early detection of that defect. And in the safety space, we're assuming an error or mistake is going to happen. So we're looking for a mitigation that protects the human when that occurs. And so the types of changes that would be made would be, honestly, I think dramatically different than how it is in most organizations. I mean, we were just recently given an example of a fatality that occurred, and the pathway to that fatality was an error. Somebody just didn't see that a tool was in place, and when they started a piece of equipment, that tool struck them. And yet when you look at the solution sets that are put in, oftentimes because it's really difficult to understand how to address that, how do you just address the fact that somebody missed something? You tend to see strings and strings of administrative controls. The difficulty, though, is that all of those administrative controls, if you follow them, the person can still miss the fact that that piece of that tooling is in place. And so we would be much better at defining the types of failures that are happening if they're happening post-event, right? So if we've actually seen something occur, the way that we define the problems would be much better. So we'd be much better at saying, hey, that was an error. And the problem is, for example, that that tooling is difficult to detect, period.
Yeah.
Yep. And so all of the problem, like the solutions around it would be, how do we make it easier to detect that this thing is in place? Or we say, let's assume that we miss it. We assume that no matter what we do, we miss the fact that this tooling is in place and we start up the equipment anyway. Then what's in place for it not to kill someone? Whether that be, I don't know, it hits something else before it would hit a person, right? So you physically change some of the design of the equipment so it can't hit you. Or whether that be the equipment can't actually start when this thing is in place because we've added a sensor to it. Those types of solutions would be far more prevalent than they are today, especially when we know that there's the potential for catastrophic failure. And I think in 5 years' time, right, we would be looking at that. That would happen when we've unfortunately already had something really terrible occur. And in 10 years' time, that would be happening far more proactively because that river of information of things that are easy to miss, mistakes that have happened, near misses that we've had, all those, the P-SIFs that we've looked at, that type of energy and effort would be going into the P-SIFs, not just when we've actually already had fatalities. So that would be thing two.
So based on the pattern, this is where I say something interesting, but I think you summed it up well. So something interesting. Is there a thing three? I know how these Seuss books go. I've read a couple.
Yeah. So then thing three would be that the planning activities for work would be far more cross-functional than they are today. What I mean by that is that the people that would end up being the end users are part of the planning of changes. So they're integrated into the team in a very meaningful way, not just as a check the box activity. But if we're going to create a new cell, the end users of that cell are going to be part of the design phase of it, right? If we're going to be writing a new procedure, the end users of the procedure are going to be part of the design phase of it. And that could be the actual end users, like the people who are going to be the hands-on folks for that specific cell. But in most cases, it would be an experienced operator, somebody who has done very similar work before, and they're going to be a very large voice. And then hopefully at least a few people who are going to actually be touching it will be part of the planning, so that by the time everything turns on, right, we get everybody up to speed, that they've been part of that process, even if they're the detailed information that they have is from a different space, right? They might not have the background information that an operator who's done that work before will have, but if they're going to be the person doing the work in the future, being part of that planning process allows them to actually hit the ground running and be really, really good at problem identification, because they were part of the plan of what it was going to look like in terms of good. Like, hey, this is how it should be running. Now they're there and they know what that vision is, and they can catch pretty quickly when that's not what's actually happening. And
not just the check the box idea. I think sometimes we hear stories of like, well, yeah, we had one of the people doing the work on the team.
Yeah.
And it's like they were just there to be like, yes,
that's fine.
That's it.
Yep.
And then they are so proud of it, but all the person who's doing the work is hearing is, well, at least someone's here.
Yeah.
I don't have much input, but at least someone gets to sit here and look at this and maybe go back to the crew and tell them what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So making sure they're actually involved and their voice is actually heard and amplified and supported.
Yeah. In many cases, we'll have like a final check, like, us engineers will go squirrel ourselves away somewhere and design something, and then do a lot of testing of it. And then the final check is the person who's going to execute it. But it's not a true final check in many cases. It's just hey, does this look good? And then that person who doesn't have a lot of authority in the organization oftentimes will look at it and be like, sure, like, I guess, yep, it's fine, without being able to be part of the mental thought process of, how is this going to look?
We heard a crazy story once where the workers were not involved in the procedure creation, and they were just given it, and they got it, and they said they read it right away. They hadn't had one of the machines in 3 years. It was required to do the job.
Yeah. And unfortunately, right, that today, if we think about the vast difference between, that 5-year and 10-year mark, another example of people not being involved and maybe not the right types of controls being put in place. There was a team recently that was teaching us about an event that occurred, and they had a piece of equipment drop while they were trying to maneuver it. And so the response from the leadership team, which were not people that execute this work, they made a mandate that you could only move this equipment using a flatbed truck. And then the question becomes, well, how do they move it today? Is the flatbed truck actually practical? In what circumstances would we not be able to use a flatbed truck? What does that look like? How often do we run into those types of circumstances? What are the nuance of that? And the folks that made the decision, because they don't do the day-to-day, were not at that point able to answer any of those questions. And so if we're thinking about the river of information, the types of controls that we would put in place, and the individuals being involved in solution setting and changing things that are actually executing the work, that one example would look vastly different using these concepts, right? Because the river of information that this is potentially not a great idea, and we've seen near misses, which turned out to be true, would have been talked about way long before the event itself happened, right? But even if the event did happen, the type of control we would put in place wouldn't just be hey, stop using this piece of equipment, because it would contain the nuance from all of the folks that actually have to execute this work to know whether that was a practical solution set to put in place, or whether or not we needed to do something vastly different.
And if you like those questions examples, that is a preview, potentially, of next episode.
We think.
we think. So if this hasn't been your speed, 1, we're sorry. We made it 22 minutes in. But 2, if you heard that last bit and you really liked it, we're going to get plenty more of that.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. You'll know. We'll call the episode something very obvious. So you're like, yeah, that's it. They did it.
All right.
That's it?
I think that's it.
We're good. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon.
Well, that's it.
Yep, another one in the books. We did it.
If you want to send us any of your thoughts, actually fling us any of your thoughts, you can do so at the website www.hoppodcast.com.
That's HOPPODCAST.com.
It's still such a stupid name.
It's such a different name. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for listening.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and 1 consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.